Why did the Saints fire Dennis Allen, in your estimation, Tom?
There were a lot of things pointing toward this potentially happening, whether you're talking about a 7-game losing streak, the fact that Dennis Allen going back to his Raider days since 2012, all the coaches in that time who have coached at least 75 games, Dennis Allen had the worst winning percentage of any of them. You had players, respected guys like Cam Jordan coming out on social media and being like, wow, we lost to the Panthers. You had Michael Thomas going off on social media yesterday about why they fired all the coaches to protect the quarterback in Derek Carr, who Dennis Allen obviously was there and was part of the decision to bring him in and give him guaranteed money that would make sure that Carr was their quarterback for a couple of years here. I thought that it was interesting in the statement that the Saints put out that Mickey Loomis, like, I don't remember another statement like that from a GM in the firing of a coach who basically said, hey, Dennis Allen's a great coach, and we had a ton of injuries, and it's not his fault, and he didn't make excuses. There was no, but it was the right time. It was Mickey Loomis basically being like, this isn't on Dennis Allen, which all brings you to, kind of the reality of the situation here, which was when you're on this type of a skid, when you were always going to be compared to Sean Payton, when the fans are frustrated, when you're falling short late in these games. Remember, this is a team that made a run at the end of last season and probably saved Dennis Allen's job at that time. Gail Benson, who really had no track record of making substantial changes because she took over for the late Tom Benson. And the only change that they had made there was when Sean Payton walked away and they hired a guy who was already in the building. There was an unknown of exactly how they would handle this. But anytime you're on that type of losing streak, you're in the third year, you're probably going to be on the chopping block. I thought, going into the season, he'd at least get the year. But obviously, with the spot that they're in, they're looking for some type of a spark just to make sure that the fans aren't completely looking elsewhere.
Yeah,
for
and
the final 2 months of the season.
Right, and usually when a coach gets fired mid-season, it's because of an embarrassing loss, and obviously yesterday would be categorized as such, but none more embarrassing than a nationally televised curb stomping at the hands of Sean Payton when he returned, and it was Drew Brees' night. And it was just an absolute awful evening there. So the question is, you even mentioned it, I'll ask it on behalf of Saints fans, what about an entire house clean? What about everybody goes there? Tom, what are you hearing on that front?
Mickey Loomis is one of the longest tenured executives in the entire NFL. I mean, he was running the NBA team that the Bensons owned as the GM there as well. Like, he's on a different program than everybody else. He's probably closer to an owner than he is to a general manager. You rule nothing out, but, to the extent of, all of a sudden you're going to have different voices involved here, and this is going to be a tear down. I haven't gotten that sense. I don't get the sense that this is going to be a fire sale, give up on the season. The stuff about the injuries is legit. I mean, Derek Carr missed, 3 starts because of his oblique injury. They've been brutalized at the wide receiver position. Chris Olave, who that's what Michael Thomas was going off about, was basically Derek Carr throwing him hospital balls and him continuing to take the type of hits that send him literally to the hospital. Rashid Shaheed being out. All those things are factors here, but they've got an old, expensive team, Rich. This is one that was built very much to try to win right now. And they did. Again, they finished strong last season. They actually, speaking of embarrassing losses, you remember it was the Saints who were playing the Falcons in the final week of last season when Jameis audibles to hand the ball off to Jamal Williams and get him a touchdown late in the game. And Arthur Smith gets mad and confronts Dennis Allen about it after the game. And Arthur Smith was fired a few hours after that. These are exactly those types of those moments that, even though, it's not just based upon the loss to the Panthers, it's kind of all those things combined. It's the acknowledgement that, the Saints were probably moving on. Does that include Mickey Loomis? Again, we don't really have signs that pointing that direction. Mickey Loomis was very close with Tom Benson. The feeling within the league has always been that Mickey is going to call his shot on retiring and walking away from the team. Could that happen this year? Could that happen a couple of years from now? Anything's possible at this stage, but in terms of Mickey Loomis being fired, I haven't gotten that sense at this point.
So Darren Rizzi, the special teams coach, is now the interim head coach. Are the Saints now officially sellers in the next 24 hours? Who would be available from their team, do you think? Tom?
Marshawn Lattimore is the key one that they've gotten calls about. He's probably the most valuable piece that they have. There was an ongoing issue of he's probably going to need a new contract after this season. I thought maybe he was going to get traded back in training camp. That's the logical guy. But beyond that, again, I don't get the sense in talking to people that this is all of a sudden, hey, we're gonna trade all these older parts on the team. I mean, you've got guys like Tyrann Mathieu, Cam Jordan, who they have continued to do deals with. You just did a new deal with Alvin Kamara. A lot of these guys are not even tradable, Rich. And I know that the Saints are used to eating dead money on the salary cap, but when you just paid guys, it becomes that much more punitive to then move on from them. Are there other potential guys who could be traded for? I'm sure that there are on the team, but they also have so many injuries that a lot of the guys who teams otherwise might be targeting, whether that's offensive linemen, whether it's some of the, potentially even the wide receivers, a lot of those guys are not on the field right now, and you can't trade a guy who's not available.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.